This is the Mikolo 2-in-1 lateral raise and chest fly power rack attachment. This attachment, the LR01, is a plate-loaded and removable power rack attachment that fits 2x2, 2x3, and 3x3 racks with the 1-inch holes. This allows you to easily isolate your delts and chest and can be moved on or off the rack or uprights fairly easily. It's got an adjustable headrest for chest or back support. And best of all, for under $300, you unlock 2 machine-like movements that you otherwise might not have. So let's check it out. Hey guys, this is Michael with the Jungle Gym Reviews. Today we're reviewing the Mikolo LR01 lateral raise and chest fly power rack attachment. You guys have probably seen something like this. Actually, one of my first reviews on the channel was the Bolt Fitness version of this. Something Gemini Peregrine combo lateral raise. Pretty much the exact same concept. What this is 2 handles and some sort of bearing, lever, rack mounted system that simply allows you to do machine-like lateral raise and or chest fly. Now, I'm gonna show you exactly how you mount this, how it works, some things that are good about it, some of the things that are trade-offs, of course, of being either $300 and or power rack and or just the mechanical design and engineering of this. But before I get into the video, if you could quickly hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already. It's gonna continue to help us grow the channel and make sure you get notified when we post 2-a-week reviews throughout the rest of 2025. And if you're interested in purchasing this after the review, check out that affiliate link in the description below. All right, as with anything that is rack mounted, there are typically some sort of trade-offs. I'm gonna show you first how it works for lateral raise, which is kind of what it's set up in already. This is all nice and, you know, the handles are straight, it looks nice and neat, and you get in and just go, right? Well, if you do that, there's no resistance at the bottom part of the motion. Good news, they have created this system, this multi-angle pop pin system, to allow you to pick where you want the handles to start. Now, when you pick where the handles can start, you can change the tension of how this works and the levers and all of the mechanics here. But this way, basically, you can start the movement with a little more tension here loaded at the bottom of the fly, which allows you to do your flies with tension somewhere starting pretty fully like right here, which is pretty good for like a plate loaded system. And obviously, you know, as you're going perpendicular to gravity, 90 degrees, this is the most peak tension, but in this range right through here, you're getting a pretty good strength curve for a plate loaded system. How it works, as you can see, is when each arm rises, this little lever pulling on a bracket on this lever arm, which is holding your weight. This does take both Olympic weights, as you can kind of see in the back here. Simple Olympic weights. It's a plastic sleeve that's actually slid over a metal sleeve. You can actually fit 1-inch standard plates, which is that metal sleeve, or this Olympic plate adapter. That's pretty typical on like cheaper products, is that they have the option to use both. And for the Olympics, they just use a plastic sleeve that has like a set screw with a little Allen key. You're not going to be lifting a ton of weight with this. It's made for accessories. I think the max weight is about 90 pounds per arm. So 90 pounds on this side, 90 pounds on that side. You're not going to really break anything. It's fixed to the rack, so your rack is the limitation. And they only give you about 8 or 9 inches of loadable space on there anyway. I would argue or question what you are doing if you need really more weight than that. You'll see in a second for pec flies, chest flies, it does take a little more than for lateral raises, but all things considered, you can load it heavy enough and it's capable enough for what you need to do. So with the different adjustments, I like to basically cross the arms to start, which looks kind of weird, but then by the time you grab them and due to the lever arm, this is, you're actually getting, you know, a decent amount of force here at the bottom, again, to go through the whole movement. I do this one of two ways, both standing like this, and you have the option to do this little headrest pad, which is actually adjustable. I don't know if you'll be able to see, there's actually 5 height adjustments here that basically you can change where this pad is mounted to the actual attachment. I have it in the very center position, but you can move it up about 2 inches or down 2 inches, or not even install it at all if you don't want it there and or don't care. I find it as just a nice variation to be able to do just standard traditional, standing lateral raise like this. And then when you bend over, you get a little bit more, I would say, like side delt, rear delt, just because of that angle. It's very akin to like a bent over dumbbell fly, something where you're, leaning like this rather than standing upright and activating more of your like traps front delts. So it works pretty well for as far as lateral raise. It does have a little bit of a learning curve to figure out how to use the arms. You basically have 2 different hinges, one that mounts to the overall, let's say, top pop pin bracket mounting point, and then one for the arm itself. And both of these can move in or out slightly. It doesn't end up feeling like you're like constantly trying to struggle as you go. Once you have some weight on it laterally, it's holding these from really moving. So yeah, I can push forward and back on it, but it's not a struggle or I'm like trying to constantly have to balance to make sure this thing's not moving. Once you kind of figure out your torso position in space, whether that's close or far, and whether, you can, if you want to do something like this, and it works completely fine. This is what I would consider almost more like a traditional like standing lateral raise machine. So you can do it like that. You can grip it on the angles. You can grip it at the end. You can wrap a D handle around here. One of the other things actually I really like doing to get a little more stretch is I actually will just put my fist here. This is just like a little more tension right here. And then I don't have to like worry about what angle my wrists are at as much with respect to the handles. So actually, this is probably my favorite way that I use this. Yeah, it feels a little bit weird on the back of your wrists, but overall, I think this feels really great because right here, I'm getting like a decent amount of, put these away. I'm getting a decent amount of side delt activation already right here, right at the beginning of the movement. And again, that's because this is in the fully upright position. That's because now my wrists are pushing that out a little bit. I would say it's not like made natively for you to do all those things, but that's what's cool about attachments is you can simulate a machine, figure out how it works best for you, how you want to use it. And that is the benefit of having a attachment / machine at home is it's just another variation on dumbbells. Do you need this? No, but it's less than $300 and has 2 movements. I believe if you use code JUNGLE, you can actually get 5% off this. $300, 2 machines, not too bad. Switching from lateral raise to the chest fly is actually really easy to do. There's only one way you adjust this, which is these pop pins. They have all these different height selectors. Almost all of these in the middle are essentially useless, meaning that you can put it in the middle, but you're not doing anything here. This is not a lateral raise, and it's not really a chest fly either. So really the outsides are the only ones or close to the outsides are the really only ones you're going to use. You do have to watch because of these hinges. I mentioned this on the Bolt Fitness one I reviewed in the past, hitting you in the face after you adjust it up. I typically like it in the top position here. Again, depending on if you want to get close, if you want to be far, you have the option. Pretty much make it exactly how you like. Somewhere in this range for me, somewhere where I can keep my arms pretty fully stretched. And just like with the lateral raise, I do it one of 2 ways, which is a little more like upright standing like this. This is a little more like lower pec for me, akin to like a high to low cable crossover type thing. And I keep the handles a little bit in front of my body. So this is way number 1. Now the resistance curve on this is not as good as the lateral raise because let's see, about right here, I mean, you can kind of see it floating. I mean, I'm pushing it with 1 finger. Right here is where you start to get like real contraction. So you definitely lose out on the little bit of the deep stretch that you typically get with like a chest fly machine. So this movement is definitely secondary to the lateral raise. And then you get a pretty solid contraction all the way through, but really, you're really only getting that right here. Just shy of 45 degrees, maybe 40, 35 degrees, you start to get that contraction. And then it feels pretty good as a pec fly. So that's standing. Then with the head pad, just like lateral raise, this just changes the angle a little bit. You can push it out in front of you because the handles have those hinges, or you can pull it kind of behind you, still down and lower. You can bend this a little bit. So it does work very smoothly, like the arms, as far as moving to your length of your arms and the bend in your elbows and however, which exact path you want to move. So overall, for $300, I mean, I think this is actually a really good attachment to have. The downsides and why you wouldn't want to get this is because even though in theory it is a rack attachment, it is removable. It's not something you want to remove. So I don't know how, I could start a timer and show you, but I'll just show you how long it takes to get on and off. In the grand scheme of things, if you have a small gym, if you only have a power rack and you have one small footprint, something like this is great because you're not adding to existing real estate or square footage, but the downside is time. Just like, adjustable dumbbells, just like with anything else. So let's say you take these weights off. There's two main threads, screws, pins that attach to the rack here. One is going to be the main top threaded pin. There's a 1-inch pin that goes all the way through the main frame here. They just give you this little wing nut. So this is way number one. And number two is this multi-height secondary locking nut, which this is actually some pretty cool piece of engineering. You actually might be able to see this before I take off on the front side here. This adjustable nut, they actually give a little bracket that this is able to fit on different size rack with different hole spacings. So like I mentioned, it fits either a 2x2, 2x3, or 3x3 with 1-inch holes. So again, it can't be less than 1-inch holes because the main threaded bolt that's welded onto the frame here is a 1-inch hole. But the hole spacing can be different because of this little bracket, which basically allows you to slide this at a couple different height range to line up with your second hole. So whether it's a metric rack, imperial rack, or other brands, as long as it's a 1-inch hole, it'll pretty much fit on here regardless of the tube size. So you take that off, then you take the wing nut on the back, finish taking that off. If you want to use a knurled knob, I've tested some of my other ones like the Rogue knurled knob. It worked just fine. It is just one piece, which is nice. So, but now you have to figure out somewhere to store it. So, if you want to store it on the side of the rack, that's fine, but now you're taking up space that you'd otherwise be squatting or something in there. And it's kind of hard to find a back post or an empty spot for this. So what typically happens is because it takes 30 seconds to take it on or off, I usually just leave it somewhere, which then again means it either is going to hit something depending on where it's located. I actually measured. You need about 30 inches of space for this here. So depending on the orientation, depending on your power rack, when this lever is all the way up, I remember adding a 10-pound plate is about 30 inches of space that you would need in order to get a full range of motion, not hit anything else. So just know that it does take a little bit of time. It's not super hard. It's not super heavy at all. I actually don't know the weight of this offhand, but it can't be more than, I don't know, 40 pounds. So it's really not too bad. It's easy to move with the threaded wing nut here and the secondary locking nut. It's comfortable, it's cheap. There are some limitations with the loading curve, resistance curve. There are some limitations with, the arms and the handles in your hand positioning. But overall, for the price, it doesn't get too much better than that. So guys, that's it for this review of the Mikolo lateral raise and chest fly power rack attachment. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer or at least try. Thanks for tuning in to Jungle Gym Reviews. We'll see you next time. Take it easy. Peace.